Did something, or someone, really descend from the sky long ago? Or were ancient people simply trying to make sense of a light they couldn't explain? Those glowing figures in ancient texts, were they gods, messengers, visitors, or just misunderstood natural phenomena? And how is it that civilizations oceans apart describe almost the same scene? A figure of light descending from above. In this episode, we'll trace the origins of these beings from the sky, explore the natural and scientific events that may lie behind the stories, and examine how the human mind can turn a light in the darkness into a living presence. If these questions open a door in your mind, and you're curious about the possibilities hidden in the night sky, stay with this journey. Now, let us look upward. Night rested silently over the land. The sky stretched across the world like a sheet of dark velvet, and even the stars seemed dimmer than usual, as if they too were waiting. Then, at the edge of the horizon, a faint shimmer began to tremble. At first, no one thought much of it, just a wandering flicker in the distance. But the light changed. It sharpened. It grew brighter. It moved with a slow, intentional glide, as though the sky itself were releasing something it had been holding. A single point of glow, turning into a streak, then into a descending line that split the darkness in two. Shadows stretched across the ground. Animals froze with instinctive fear. People stepped outside, lifted their heads, and tried to make sense of the impossible. Then it happened. The light slowed down. It wasn't falling. It was approaching. Some dropped to their knees, others hid behind stones and wooden doors, but every gaze was fixed on the same silent phenomenon, a luminous presence drifting down from the sky. In the ancient world, moments like this carved themselves into memory. For the first time, people wondered, what if something above us can come down? The idea of beings descending from the sky is not tied to a single civilization. It appears, almost mysteriously, in cultures scattered across the world. Sumerian tablets speak of radiant messengers stepping down from the gates of heaven. Egyptian hieroglyphs depict light-filled vessels gliding from the sky to the earth. In ancient India, celestial devas descend to guide, warn, or intervene in human affairs. Greek mythology describes gods arriving in flashes of brilliance from the heights of Olympus. And across Mesoamerica, stories tell of luminous figures emerging from the clouds to impart knowledge to humankind. What makes this pattern striking is that many of these cultures had no contact with one another, no shared trade, no shared language, no shared mythology. Yet they all imagined the same motion, a presence coming down. Archaeology suggests a common thread. These were societies that observed the sky, not casually, but ritually. They read the heavens for meaning, interpreted unusual lights as messages, and tracked celestial movements as signs of fate. In such a worldview, every glow carried a purpose. Every streak was a symbol. Every descent was a visitor. And so the motif of sky-descending beings became a recurring imprint on humanity's earliest spiritual memory. A shared image, born from countless nights spent staring into the unknown. When ancient people describe beings descending from the sky, their accounts may have been rooted in real, observable events. Events that we now understand through astronomy. A slowly drifting meteor, for example, can appear to pause or hover as atmospheric drag slows its velocity near the horizon. To an untrained eye, watching from the ground, this doesn't look like a falling rock. It looks like something approaching. Certain bow-eyed meteors brighten suddenly, flare, dim, and flare again, creating the illusion of a controlled descent rather than a natural burn-up. Their fragmentation can scatter smaller, glowing pieces which might be perceived as shapes, limbs, or silhouettes. Comets, too, can linger in the sky for weeks at a time, gliding inch by inch through the darkness, a slow-moving light that seems intentional, almost alive. And then there is Venus, a planet so bright at certain times of year that atmospheric refraction makes it shimmer, pulse, or appear to glide downward toward the Earth. Ancient observers often describe these moments as the descent of a radiant being. Even rare atmospheric phenomena, like upper atmosphere lightning, meteor trails illuminated by moonlight, or high-altitude plasma events, could imprint themselves as supernatural encounters in cultures seeking meaning from the sky. To an ancient worldview, the heavens were not empty, they were filled with intention, signs and messages, so when an unusual light slowed, brightened or descended, the conclusion felt natural. Something was coming down. Today, we can trace many of these sightings to ordinary cosmic events, but in their time they sparked the earliest seeds of the sky beings mythos. Many ancient descriptions of beings descending from the sky may have stemmed not from entities, but from natural events that resembled controlled technology, at least to the human mind. The brain is wired to recognize patterns, especially humanoid shapes, even where none exist. So, when unusual lights appeared in the night sky, people instinctively gave them purpose and form. Consider ball lightning, a rare atmospheric plasmasphere that can drift horizontally, hover near the ground, and fade with a soft burst. To ancient eyes, this glowing orb would look less like weather and more like an otherworldly visitor. Similarly, volcanic eruptions can cast fiery reflections against low cloud layers. Faraway communities, unaware of the source, would see a bright red presence descending toward the horizon. Fragments of a breaking meteor can flutter downward in multiple glowing pieces, giving the impression of a figure with arms, wings, or a trailing form. Even thermal inversions, layers of warm air trapping light, can make distant flames or torches appear to rise and fall in the sky. To a modern observer, these are scientific phenomena, but to an ancient community, every unexplained glow had intention. Every movement carried meaning. They did what humans always do. They filled the unknown with narrative. A drifting light became a messenger. A flicker in the clouds became an arrival. A meteor flare became an opening in the heavens. Thus, what may have been purely natural or optical events were transformed, through interpretation, into stories of descending beings. When something unfamiliar appears in the night sky, the human mind doesn't stay neutral. It reacts with instinct. Fear sharpens perception. Awe enlarges it, and together they can turn a brief flash of light into the memory of a presence. During moments of shock or danger, the brain prioritizes survival over accuracy. Time stretches, shapes blur, brightness intensifies, a simple glow can feel alive, and any movement becomes deliberate, intentional. In group settings, this effect multiplies. One person says, "I saw a light." Another replies, "It was moving toward us." A third adds, "It looked like a figure." Memory adapts, expands, and stitches these impressions together into a single, powerful narrative. This is how collective perception overtakes individual experience. A meteor becomes a visitor, a reflection becomes a descent, a flicker becomes a form. Neurology adds another layer. Humans are naturally predisposed to see faces and shapes in randomness, a psychological pattern called pareidolia. The darker and more mysterious the environment, the stronger this instinct becomes. For ancient people, the sky was a realm of mystery and meaning. Every unusual light carried emotional weight. Every descent-like motion demanded a story. And in the mind's effort to understand the unknown, a simple, celestial event could evolve into the memory of a being, not just seen, but encountered. In the ancient world, memory was not preserved in books. It lived in stories, rituals, and the spoken word. Every unusual event in the sky was carried by emotion first and explanation second. When a strange light appeared, the strongest details weren't the visual ones. They were the feelings attached to it: fear, wonder, reverence, confusion. Those emotions became the glue that held the story together through generations. A grandparent might say, "We saw a glow in the sky." The next generation retells it as, "It came down toward us." A century later, the story becomes something descended from above. Oral traditions naturally expand. Each retelling fills gaps, adds colour, and reinforces the parts that feel meaningful. And because many ancient cultures shared trade routes, migration paths, and mythic themes, these stories intertwined. Sumer's shining messengers echoed into Akkadian lore. Egypt's skyboats mirrored themes from the Near East. Greek tales of descending gods resonated with older Levantine myths. Even distant cultures across the ocean carry parallel imagery of skyborne beings. Different societies reshaped the idea according to their beliefs. In some, they became divine watchers. In others, carriers of wisdom. Elsewhere, harbingers of fate. But beneath all those variations lay a common archetype, a universal memory of lights in the sky, given faces, motives, and identities. Over centuries, natural lights became divine beings. Divine beings became cultural heroes, and cultural heroes became the foundations of entire mythologies. What began as a fleeting glow became an eternal story, one retold until it felt not like a memory, but like a truth shared by all humanity. From the moment humans first walked the earth, our gaze has been drawn upward. The sky was our oldest mystery, a vast, silent canvas that made us feel both insignificant and connected to something greater. Perhaps this is why the idea of beings descending from above is more than mythology. It reflects a deeper question woven into human existence. What waits beyond what we can see? For ancient societies, the heavens were not just a physical space. They were a realm of intention, a source of signs, a doorway to meaning. When something unusual appeared above them, a streak of fire, a drifting glow, a shimmering pulse, they didn't see randomness. They saw purpose. Philosophically, these stories express a longing, the hope that knowledge, order, or guidance might come from beyond ourselves. The unknown above became a mirror for the unknown within. And even today, under modern stars, the instinct is unchanged. A strange light still triggers the same ancient reflex, a mix of wonder and unease, a sense that the sky is not empty, that something might be watching, descending, or calling. Maybe the beings in these stories weren't figures at all, but symbols, reflections of humanity's search for meaning in a universe too vast to fully comprehend. And the real question lingers beneath it all. When we look up, do we hope to find something there? Or do we hope it finds us? The night eventually returned to its natural quiet. The glow that had carved a path through the darkness drifted away, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air and the echo of something unexplainable. Animals crept out once more, testing the silence. People stepped back from the doorways where they had watched the sky open, their breath still unsteady, their thoughts tangled between fear and wonder. Whispers replaced the stillness, stories forming in real time, each voice shaping the moment into something larger than life. Some believed a messenger had come, others feared it was a warning, but all agreed on one thing: whatever touched the world that night did not belong to the earth. As the sky sealed itself again, it left behind a single, enduring question, one that outlived the moment, outlived the witnesses, and traveled through centuries. Did something truly descend from the heavens? Or did we simply give shape to a light we could not understand? We followed the trail of descending lights, from ancient testimonies to scientific possibilities to the shadows of human imagination. Some answers grew clearer, others slipped back into the darkness, just as they have for thousands of years. But the journey doesn't end here. Because every time humanity looked upward, it found not only the sky, but a reflection of its own questions. In the next chapter, we'll step away from the heavens and turn our attention to another mystery, a symbol carved into history, a sign that has endured across cultures long before explanations ever existed. A new question waits in that silence, and when the time comes, another curtain will lift